I have done this hundreds of times. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I have played this move. This is the game on the spot. You lose, you're done. Never, ever, ever play bishop e6. Alrighty guys, so for today's video, we are going to be studying the worst and my absolute least favorite gambit to play against when I play the Caro Kann. I am a Caro Kann player. I have played the Caro Kann well over 2,500 times in my chess career. I originally learned it from Gotham Chess. I absolutely love this opening. I think everybody should play it. Let me know in the comments down below if I should make a Caro Kann video teaching you how to play the Caro Kann. By far the best opening to play at any elo, whatever you may be. Ideally, probably around 800 plus. I played the Caro Kann from 900 elo back in 2020, or sorry, I think it was back in 2019 up until now. I'm floating right around like 1930, 1950 elo on chess.com rapid time control, and I did get to 2000 elo, and I have the Caro Kann to thank for it. The Caro Kann is the best opening in chess, but there is a very annoying gambit that I, for the life of me, still to this day, have so much trouble trying to figure out. And today, we're going to be studying it, and we're going to figure out how to annihilate this gambit. So as you can probably see on screen, this gambit is actually called the Alien Gambit. Now the Alien Gambit, when you play the Caro Kann, so I'm going to just review a basic Caro Kann for you. So Caro Kann starts with, and by the way, you can only play the Caro Kann against e4. Anything else, like d4, you can't play Caro Kann. c4, you can't play Caro Kann. You can only play the Caro Kann against e4. Okay, Roger. So it starts with c6, and usually your opponent will play d4. And after d4, you always strike here. This is the main line for the Caro Kann defense. So most times your opponent will take this pawn. And when they take that pawn, you always take back. Every single time you take back. And after this, you just play normal chess. You get the bishop into the game, devote the bishop. If the knight goes here, you just push here, get this bishop into the game. If the bishop ever comes down to check, you block with the knight. And usually your opponent will just castle. You go here, the bishop slides back. I usually play here, bishop back, here. The list goes on and on, right? So that's if your opponent takes. Now, if your opponent plays something like this, you always move your bishop here. And after your opponent moves their bishop there, sometimes they'll play a move like here, and you just continue to play normal chess. Your opponent will develop like normal. If your opponent ever takes this, you just take back. Taking back is fine. Then if your opponent goes here, you block with the knight. And it's still the exact same thing. If your opponent ever takes you, just take back with the queen, or with the pawn. I know my material in chess, I swear. So that is the Caro Kann in a nutshell. However, if your opponent does not take this pawn, and let's say your opponent plays something like knight c3, if you take this pawn, your opponent is 9.9 times out of 10 going to take this pawn. There's never a reason why they wouldn't take this pawn, because they would literally just lose the position, just completely lost. Unless there's some weird gambit that I still need to learn. So anytime your opponent takes here, you always move the knight here. I play this every single time. This is the Caro Kann defense main line. And if your opponent ever takes this knight, you take back, and the bishop goes, if the bishop ever goes to c3, which is actually bad apparently. Oh, that's d3. Bishop, okay. We're gonna go here. Your opponent ever goes here, you move your bishop here, so you can eventually castle. Knight is going to go here. You castle. Your opponent castles, because if you don't castle, this rook's going to get into the game eventually. And it's kind of scary. I usually will probably slide my rook over. Rook e8 is a good move, but you can also play bishop g4, pinning the knight to the queen, and like the list goes on. It's just a different complicated position, and it's actually called the Tartakower. And Gotham Chess actually plays this all the time. It's where you, so if you move his bishop there, you go here, and you play something pretty basic like h3, say bishop h5, and let's say you play g4, here, knight h4, attacking the bishop, and you just take on d3, queen takes, and then It looks very scary, but your king's pretty safe as it stands. And the reason why you move rook here is because you're trying to actually rotate your knight into the game. So that is the main line when you get to this spot. However, when the knight goes here, this is called the Alien Gambit. And the top engine move here is to actually push the pawn to c5 right away. Because your opponent takes, your white loses their right to castle. And they can't gambit this knight anymore because, well, I actually kind of spoiled it for you. I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you, I'll explain in a second. But the queen's very important for the Alien Gambit. So let's say, like, I'm not going to lie, most times I will usually just push this pawn to attack the knight here. And whenever I do that, they sack the knight here on f7. And it just looks like a straight up blunder. Mainly for the fact that the king can just take the knight and you're just up a clean piece of material. However, your opponent has so much opportunity on the light squares. The queen's sniping in here, the bishop is sniping in here, this knight's going to get into the game, this bishop can get into the game, and there is so much scary stuff you have to think about in order to survive this position. The Alien Gambit is probably one of the most complicated gambits in chess, and it is not even close. Yes, the eval bar says you have an advantage as black, but there's so much stuff you need to make sure you understand and process before you progress in this position. Because, like, if you play a move like this, like, okay, let's say white plays the top edge move. Let's say you play a move like this, you're dead. Because that goes here, and you're just dead. So it's very important that you play this very, very accurately and very, very precise. So let's get into it. So the top engine move here for white is to move the knight here. And whenever the knight moves here, you always play c5. When you play c5, you're getting this knight a square to go to. Unless they push. They push, that's kind of stupid. If they push, they're annoying. Let's look at that real quick. So after they push, you go king g8. And actually that's bad because now the bishop can't get here. Because the bishop does go to c4, you just move the queen up, right? Ooh, now you go b5. Gambling a pawn. If the bishop takes, deadly. Because queen a5 check, and your knight. And your opponent's knight can't get here to block the check and defend the bishop at the same time. So this bishop will fall. So that can't happen. So in that spot, you would play here. However, if your opponent plays the top engine line, which a lot of players will do, bishop c4 check. And 9 times out of 10, I have done this hundreds of times. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I have played this move. This is the game on the spot. You lose, you're done. Never, ever, ever play bishop e6. Because after knight e5 check, king has to go back to e8. And your bishop's not covered. Your bishop is just dead. Dead in the water. Dead to rights. And now your opponent's up a pawn. On top of the fact that the bishop is now blocking this pawn from ever moving forward. The queen is coming in eventually. Yes, the knight still covers, but eventually the queen's going to come in. The knight is covering 3 million squares. The bishop is covering a bunch of squares, and you are just completely and utterly dead. Don't play bishop e6 in this spot. Instead, you need to push the pawn here to e6. Because when you do that, the knight does come in now to check. Let's say the knight comes into e5 to check. Now you can go king g8, and this pawn is covered by the bishop. And white's best move now is to just castle. Knight c6 is now an option because it takes. Takes. And you're just like, yes, you have double pawns, but you're up material. Like, keep in mind, your opponent sacked this knight. So it's very important to recognize, like, okay, it's okay to have double pawns, but I need to make sure that I am seeing what checks are available. I am seeing what kind of threats are being created, vice versa. Very important. So let's say that your opponent plays something else. Let's say your opponent plays something like queen e2. furthering the attack on this pawn. Top engine move here is to play c takes d4. And if your opponent needs to play bishop d2 now. I guess to try and castle this way. Yeah. Because after castles, knight c6. Long castles, and now this rook can get into the game, creating a deadly X-ray. But yeah, so the queen goes there. You take b2 or d2. What happens if your opponent goes here? That's deadly because it's knight c6 still covering the piece. And by the way, the bishop and the king still cover, so you can't take this bishop because you would lose your queen if your queen took back there. After the bishop takes, and your bishop takes. So yeah, very, very important. So let's rewind real quick. What if I told you that knight f3 actually isn't the top engine move? What if I told you bishop d3 actually is? It's not. I'm lying. But if your opponent did play bishop d3, you would continue to play very structurally. You would need to maintain a structured position. Because remember, like we just talked about, this bishop's eventually going to be coming in here. Eventually. So this pawn is going to have to push eventually. So it's best to get the bishop into the game, start controlling some squares, and start creating some threats. Because if the bishop comes in with check, you just push this pawn to e6. And remains the same. They can't push this pawn because then the pawn would take, and vice versa. So after the pawn pushes here, now the knight is coming in. So the knight's coming in to create some check threats. This pawn does still cover, so that is negated right there. And oh, Kitty's crashing out. Hang on, I got the kitty out of the door, out of the room. So when the knight comes in, you ideally probably want to move the bishop here to eliminate the checking threat from the knight. Because the knight goes here now, you just take, and then what? Queen takes on d1, rook takes on d1, and you just move your knight to what? d5. d5, completely stopping the position. And now black looks a lot better. A lot better. Because now this knight can develop eventually. This pawn can't push to attack this knight anytime soon without the bishop moving. And if that happens, you just go here. And your knights just cover each other. So, yeah. So, instead of bishop e3, how about bishop c4 check right out the gate? Now, before this knight is here, very important. If the knight is here, you cannot move the bishop here. Completely and utterly negated. You cannot move the bishop there because of what I just told you. Lose a bishop, right? So bishop c4 check right out the gate. You can play bishop e6. Bishop e6 is okay. Except if the bishop takes, yes, your king is going to be very, very, very exposed. Like your king is literally in front of a pawn. When is this ever okay? Like this is bad. This is very, very, very bad. Ideally, you probably never, ever, ever, ever want to do this. So let's say your opponent goes queen e2 check. You just slide right back. And you're doing just fine. Knight f3. You continue play normal chess. It says queen d5. Oh, not there. Queen d5. Get the knight in the game. Eventually push. Yada yada. And if the knight ever comes in with check, this is bad because the king can just go to g8. And this bishop is still blocked. Knight can't go here now though. And you can also just, like if your opponent castled here, oops. If your opponent castled here, you can always just bring the knight here. And if it takes, you just take with the queen, right? Nope. Take with the knight. Or the knight. And the queen can't come in here to check. He ever moves his rook there. It says rook e8. Perfectly defending this pawn. Oh my gosh. Clicking is hard. But yeah. So that, and then I want to explore one more line with you guys. With the alien gambit. So instead of playing those three moves, say your opponent brings a queen in the game. Because I have seen this move before. Yes, it's spending the knight to the king. Believe it or not, this is in fact a move I have seen so many freaking times. This looks sus, but you just take the pawn. You just straight up take that pawn. And now you're up 3 pieces of material. Because, and the reason why this is good, is because if the bishop ever moves here, it says take the pawn here, but honestly you could probably just go queen e4. Ooh, queen e4 is bad. Because I was thinking takes, so that's not good. And, oh my goodness. Go ahead and lock Kitty out. Kitty's being annoying. Sorry. So yeah, queen takes here. And if we move like queen d1 to defend this rook, go queen d4 check, bishop slides back, and you just get right back where you started. Check. Bishop b2. And you're doing a-okay. So now you can push this pawn forward, get this bishop in the game. This bishop ever goes here. It can't really at the moment because it's still pinned as it stands. Actually, you probably wouldn't push that pawn there because then if this pawn pushes, you can't go back, and then you lose the pin on this bishop to the king. But yeah, if it never goes there, you just take the pawn. And yeah, the top edge move after this is to go queen b3 check. If you move the bishop here, that's bad. So queen takes, and you're going to lose a rook. Or are you? Queen e4 check. Opponent blocks. Push c5. And now your queen covers or attacks the queen while simultaneously defending the rook while the rook is under attack. Awesome. Cool. All right, so let's review this one final time for you guys. So the Alien Gambit can only be played out of the Caro Kann. And if your opponent doesn't take here, because like I said, anytime your opponent doesn't take this pawn, you always take this pawn. Always the best move. If your opponent ever pushes here, you play bishop here. And if your opponent takes this pawn, you always take back. If your opponent doesn't take this pawn, they move the knight here, here, here. Always play this move. And the Alien Gambit starts here. And like the top engine move now is to play c5. Like if you want to get a jump start in the position, c5 is a good move. After your opponent sacks the knight here, turning it into the Alien Gambit, knight f3, and now actually your pawn is already here. But it's like this move is still fine. Like I'd honestly recommend playing that instead. After they sack the knight here, knight goes here. Now you push this pawn. If the bishop ever goes here, you never play here when the knight is already out. You play e6 first. And if your opponent just plays bishop c4 right out the gate, you always block with the bishop, because after takes, queen never goes here, you just slide back. And if your opponent ever plays bishop d3, you go bishop f5, and when the bishop comes in to check, you just block with the pawn. And the reason why you move your bishop out is because you are trying to not block your bishop in from back here, because when the pawn pushes, the pawn will now be pinned to the king, and it's better to have more space, more advantage. So, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and tell me what your favorite chess opening is. Have you ever played the Caro Kann? Do you know how the Caro Kann works? I would love to know. Please tell me in the comments down below what your favorite opening is, and also tell me what your rapid elo is, what your blitz elo is, what your bullet elo is. I would love to know. Please tell me down below. And if you play the Alien Gambit, I don't hate you, but I don't like you very much. There's no hate on this channel, but don't play Alien Gambit, because now we're going to thwart you in your Alien Gambit ways. So. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you enjoy chess content, please be sure to subscribe. We upload these videos every single day. They are educational, funny, and you will find them very helpful more times than not. So I highly recommend you subscribe to the channel. We post videos, like I said, every single day, and I think you'll find it very, very helpful. We are the next chess channel that is going to be going up. So get on the bandwagon while you still can. And also, we have a chess Discord server where we host chess tournaments at least twice a week, daily chess checkmates, which is like a chess puzzle, but we don't do chess puzzles anymore. We do checkmates instead, because checkmates are more fun to find and more fun to accomplish, in my opinion, and you get a bit more of a of a rush there. Me personally, I get a bit of a rush when I solve checkmating puzzles, but that might just be me. But we have that, a chess dojo, and we have a bunch of other cool and fun, helpful chess tools that will really skyrocket your chess elo. If that sounds like something you would enjoy, I highly recommend you check it out. The link is going to be in the description down below. And all you got to do is click that link, hop in, and join the community. Alrighty, guys. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to check out this video. This video is really fun to make. It's very, very fun and insightful, and I think you'll find it a very, very fun watch. Alrighty, guys. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.